Certainly excited about the start of another season. Does feel a little more comfortable for me and my staff having been here a little bit. But having said that, it's also a little bit like, feels like year 1A maybe as opposed to year 2 from the standpoint of so many new kids, and you know, I think our older guys are much more comfortable and excited about how we play, how we do things, and you see that in their daily interaction. And our new kids look like deers in headlights right now, and that's okay. That's part of the process. But I always enjoy this time of year because it's when you start to begin to put the pieces of a team together, and that's one of the things that I really enjoy about coaching is trying to take all these different parts and make them fit. And we certainly have enough questions this year that'll be part of the challenge.
Brad, even though you lost Trevor going into your first year,
yeah.
could you and your staff face a tougher job this year, just given all the new faces?
I don't think we're as talented this year as we were last year, and so because of that, yes. You know, the challenge last year was, I don't know, I just thought Jure was better. I think I knew that Jure was going to be better than maybe the media or whoever. I just felt like even though he hadn't done a lot in his career to date, after working with him to this point, our staff felt pretty good, like this kid's got a chance, and he's really hungry and he wants to do it. And we had in DeMontez, you had a 4-year guy that, you know, he played with a chip on his shoulder, and so you had no fear. This year's team is we do have some kids that have played, and Tanner and Andre, and those guys are not going to be in awe of anything. But our other 2 seniors really haven't played a whole lot. Brian played a little bit last year, Bobo really not so much, and so they're not as experienced or seasoned as you would like. And then the other 2 guys, Devin and Milt, have shown that they can be good players. Now it's time for them to prove it. And you mix that with five new guys, so you basically have half old, half new. We're just not as talented from top to bottom, especially maybe at the top of having as many significant guys. But doesn't mean we can't still have a good team.
Do you have anybody that's like a Dre there that maybe you see the potential in them and they just kind of prove it to you?
I don't know if it's, no, not to that level. I mean, now Milton and Devin certainly have the potential to take the next step and become more consistent players, and quite frankly, they need to. I mean, if they don't, then it's going to be hard for us to be consistently good. You know, last year they were in a great spot in that they, you know, Devin got to start, Milt got to come off the bench. They both basically played the same amount of minutes, and if they played well, great. If they didn't play well, we could still win. I don't know that that's going to be the case this year. There's just not enough other standouts to be able to carry the load. And so, you know, they've proven that they can do it. But now, and they should, they're juniors. It's the time in your career when you're supposed to be able to be a productive, consistent player, you know, and that's what you hope those guys are in position to do. And I know they're excited about the opportunity.
Last year you were able to tailor some of what you wanted to do offensively around DeMontez and Dre's strengths. Mm-hmm. How do you see the offensive identity taking shape?
Well, the strengths of our team this year will be the versatility of the personnel in terms of, you know, Milt and Devin are post players that play away from the basket. And I'm hoping our motion will be a little bit better this year. We ran motion last year, but we didn't run as much pure motion as some people or as maybe I had at some other places, because we wanted to keep Jure around the basket more, and because it was all so new, we just never could quite get it all in. And now that we have a team with 6 guys that have an understanding and have a base and know what's kind of going on, we can move all 5 guys on the court to all different spots, and the ball can move, and the guys have an understanding of what we're trying to do. When Bobo's in the game, we'll be a little different. But I do think one of our strengths can be the versatility with which we can play because of the different types of big men.
Because of the youth and those things.
Go ahead. No, you're right.
Because of the youth, does defense need to kind of be the
Yeah.
foundation for all?
Well, defense needs to be our foundation all the time. We're not going to have enough, you know, of the wow players that we're going to just go in and outscore people and score 85 points every night. I just don't know that that's going to be our recipe for success here for, you know, a future. Now, can we have teams that become? Yeah, we certainly can, and we're not holding the ball. We're pushing the ball more than people think. You know, if you watch us play, we shoot after 1 and 2 passes a lot. We don't, because you run motion doesn't mean you have to pass it 7 or 8 times. That's like back in the 70s type motion with Coach Knight. If you watched his teams change as he went to Texas Tech and his last teams at Indiana, they were quick scoring and quick shooting. It's just a style that can lend itself to it. Our freshmen have to understand how to play on the defensive end if they're going to play. And if they don't understand the defensive end, they can't play. You know, I said out there that you can play for me if you defend your position and you know how to play as a team defensively. You handle the ball and you know what to do. And I haven't said anything about making a basket. And if you think about last year, Xavier Anderson was our best on-ball defender. He took care of the ball on offense and was a very good distributor, and he knew what to do. And so he played double-figure minutes, and he was a walk-on at the beginning of the year. But if you can't do those things, then it's going to be hard for you. You better be a major league scorer. And we don't have a freshman that's a major league scorer, so they better do those things first. And a couple of them will get it, but they're not there yet.
Do you feel like there's a better understanding of what you're trying to teach though this year? I mean, because you have 6 guys coming back that went through it last year, and also guys that you actually recruited to the system as opposed to guys you inherited.
Yeah, you know, I'm never as big on that whole inherited versus this, that, and the other. I mean, in some ways, yes, but I just think we're more comfortable because there's 6 guys that have an understanding of what we're trying to do, and they understand our defensive principles. They understand most of our offensive principles, and they're more comfortable with the coaches, and we're comfortable with them. So from that standpoint, that's where we're ahead. We're ahead in all of that. And when you watch Tanner and you see Andre and Brian out on the court, those guys are comfortable, and they're comfortable telling other kids what to do, and because they know what they're saying is right, because we've been going over it, you know, for a year, and they have it ingrained in their head, and that is encouraging. And the one thing I really like about our freshman kids is, and I talked to them about it as soon as they came on campus this summer, was that they need to be respectful of the elders in the program, the guys that have actually been to tournaments and done things. And the kids we recruited are great kids. They want to do what's right. They listen. They're very respectful of the older players. They're trying to learn as quickly as possible. And you know, because of that, our team chemistry is very good. The guys really like each other, and they really get along. I think that sometimes is overlooked by people in terms of how a team gets through a long season together.
Brett, when you say you're not as talented as last year, is that more about athleticism and tools, or more about skill?
I think it's just more about maybe offensive, just maturity, experience, ability to put the ball in the basket. Just all of those things kind of roll into one. You know, I mean, if you talked about a talented player, that's what you talk about: his ability to score, his ability to know what to do defensively, his ability to compete, his ability to perform under pressure. You know, that's where Jure, DeMontez, you know, they were never wide-eyed in any situation. And the thing about our team last year that was clearly evident was we fought you every night. I mean, every night we fought, and we didn't win them all, but man, you knew when the game was over, you knew you were in a fight. And especially the longer the season went on. Early in the season, we had some things that were difficult. We didn't understand what we were doing. We didn't like everything we were doing. We had some problems. We didn't play well sometimes, and we didn't look like a team that was always. But as it went on, our guys really got after it, and that was the air of confidence and talent that I'm kind of talking about. Is they knew they could win it or compete really well. We have just a few more unanswered questions.
Bubba's kind of been a 4-year project. With this being thin on the inside, is he kind of a 10, 15-minute guy this year?
He's got to play. You know, he's got to play, and he's got to be productive. And he's fine now in terms of understanding what to do. He's fine in terms of size. He's fine in terms of skill level. It's all about toughness, competitive spirit, and that's the hardest part to coach. Is he's got to take it to the next level as a competitor. You know, it's not okay to get scored on. It's not okay to give up that rebound. You know, it's not okay to fumble a ball. Like, he's just, his mentality has to become to where he's more confident in himself, he's productive, and he expects more to perform at a high level. And that's coming. It's coming. But that whole competitive fire that you just have to have, especially playing around the basket, a little nastiness, that's not his, it's not his genuine personality, but he's got to get out of that. And the more he does, the better he does of getting out of that, the better he'll play.
You talked about leadership earlier and all. Can you talk about Tanner and Andre and what they're going to bring to the table?
You know, Tanner and Andre and even Brian, I think, are really good leaders. You know, they're all great kids. They want to do the right thing. They want to please you. They want to listen. They work. They put in extra time. And because they work so hard, and because guys see how hard they work and what they can do, guys respect them. They look at them and respect them. And they've kind of had to wait their turn. They've been in a good program. They've seen teams win, but they've never been the voice. Last year, Tanner and Andre were never really the voice. Tanner occasionally. Andre is not a vocal guy. And Brian didn't say anything, you know, but DeMontez, occasionally Jure, they were the voice inside the team. And I think there's got to be a voice. There's got to be, and it can't just be the coach. If it's always coach directed, then it never always gets to where it needs to. When it's from the team, when it's from the players, that's when you have something special. And as the year wore on, that's what you saw with our team. You saw a team grow to finally believe in a system and believe in each other and embrace something. Now we got to start over with a new team and try to do it. Now, the older guys, I think, like what we do. They like how we play. So there's already buy-in. And that part of the process should be better.
Physically, how's Milton? Is he going to be able to, I guess, hold his own better underneath?
I think so. You know, I still wish he was a little bigger and stronger and heavier. But he's good size, and he's a stronger kid than his weight. He's 220, you know, 222. He kind of bounces in that 218 to 222 to 225 when he's having a good day. But he's strong. He's got some strength to him. Now he's got to still improve on handling, finishing plays versus contact. But he's got good hands to rebound. He can rebound in traffic. It's not physical with Milt. Milt has the physical tools to be a productive player. He's just got to emotionally be consistent. He can't get up or down so high or so low, and that's part of who he is. That's part of his personality. So that's a challenge for him. It's a challenge for him to bounce back from a difficult play. He lets things bother him longer than he should, and so sometimes that's difficult. And that's obviously a big part of what we're working on. Excuse me. Is to try to get him to understand that not everything is that big a deal. There are things that are going to happen in a game. You're going to make mistakes, and you're not going to finish every play, and you're going to have a turnover, and the ref's going to call a bad foul on you, and you can't let it worry you. You got to be persistent in your approach. You got to persist. You got to fight through. You got to persevere. You can't let things bother you into the next play, or it will make you make bad plays. And he's had a hard time with that. I think you saw him get more confident last year, and you know, from watching film, he just looked, you know, he looked completely out of sorts at a lot of games. Last year, he really didn't look out of sorts, but he didn't play as well in some games because things would bother him and get to him, and we can't have that happening as much this year.
Like something early on in the game, and he just kind of let it hang.
It would just stay with him. It stays with him. You know, it doesn't roll off his back like other guys. He takes things personally, and some of that's because he wants to win. He wants to do well. He feels pressure. You know, he's trying, and that's just the way he's wound a little tighter. That's just the way, you know, he's made.
Sapp seems like a guy who's gotten some good reviews from the veterans.
Yeah.
Someone who
Yeah.
communicates a lot on defense, not intimidated by the moment.
Very outgoing kid. You know, one of the things I really liked about when I watched him play in the AAUs was how much he communicated and talked and how confident he looked when he played. You know, I think he'll have a chance to be a good player for us and play early, because I do think his knowledge of the game is a little farther along than some of the other guys. I think defensively he has a better feel. I think maybe you know, he's a little better prepared. Because of that, he's more comfortable, so he's more confident, so he's more natural, so he's not as edgy. That's the hard part with freshmen, is they're edgy and nervous because, you know, they're not doing things right, and they're constantly being corrected, and they can't play because now they're thinking all the time. I think he's got the personality where he's, first of all, he loves to play. He always wants to play. He's excited about it, and he has a good knowledge base to start. His IQ is high, so he's going to have an opportunity.
Is there anyone besides Sap that going through individual workouts in the summer that you point out and say, well, this guy has a chance to play early in terms of the freshman?
The next guy would be just Bernard, based on the need, because we just don't have as many post players as, you know, we probably are down a post player. We'd like to have one more. And because of that, Bernard will get opportunity. He has size at 6'7", 225. He's got good weight as a freshman. It'll be stamina for him, and it'll be, once he gets tired, he's going to start making mental mistakes, because that's the first thing that happens. Once you get tired, mentally you go and you make mistakes. And his challenge will be, obviously it's more difficult for big kids. The physicality, the being pushed on, that's going to wear you down. Can he still fight through that and make plays? But he certainly has an opportunity because of necessity in some ways.
How much does McDaniel's athleticism make him a possible guy, defensively especially, as you try to?
It does. It makes him, he can go make some plays that you can't coach, whether it's, and a lot of that like rebounding or block a shot. I mean, there's not a lot of coaching in that. You know, that's guys making plays. And, you know, tell Dabo, I said, that's when you throw it to Sammy and he just jukes a guy and goes 80 yards for a touchdown. That's not a lot of coaching. That's a lot of players making plays. But he's the same way in that he can go get a rebound above the rim, come in, tip dunk. He can block a shot that you just don't think other kids can do and can't do. And because of that, gives him an opportunity. But now he's still got to know where to go, what to do, and he's got to execute under pressure. Can he do all that yet? I don't know. Haven't seen it. But I like his attitude. I like his coachability. He really wants to be good. He's into it. So, you know, our staff is excited about him.
He's worked a lot on shooting and putting the ball on the floor.
Yeah.
How far along is he in that realm over?
He's improved. He really has. You know, I mean, he's not a lights-out shooter by any stretch of the imagination, but he can make threes now. I mean, he can make a three. And he can put the ball on the ground and get to a pull-up and do some things that way. That's, you know, he was more athlete than basketball player when we got him in terms of strengths versus weaknesses. But now, you know, he's closing the gap, and some of it's because of his athleticism. He's a good athlete. All the other things are going to be the pace and speed and, you know, all the different, everything, offense and defense being new, that'll be a challenge for him. We'll see how he does, but we're very encouraged, very encouraged.
After last season, you talked about sending the guys out into the summer to make themselves better basketball players, skill-wise or whatever.
Yep.
Talk a little bit about that, what you've seen, first of all, what you asked those guys to do and what you've seen as a result.
Yeah, well, I met with each kid as I always do, and I laminated, you know, a sheet of paper for each kid. Had anywhere from, you know, 4 or 5 to 8, 9 things on it. That some of it was basketball stuff, some of it was might have been like, you know, be a better competitor to Bobo, something along those lines. Might have some messages like that to get them to think about while they're playing in the summer, when they're playing pickup games, when they're working on their games. And I think by and large our guys have done some of that. I think Brian's continued to improve. I think Brian Narcissus is shooting the ball better again than he was last year. And, you know, he wasn't, I mean, he was an average shooter last year, but we just want him to be a little bit better. I think Tanner's a little bit better. I mean, I don't know that these guys are are gonna come in and start making 4 threes every game. I'm not ready to say that, but they are better. You can tell they put in some time. You know, Bobo's better. His skills are better. His strength is better. And I think Devin Booker has done some things where he's continually improving, and his shooting is better. He's a more consistent shooter from the perimeter, and I would anticipate him shooting even more threes this year than he shot last year, and think he'll make a better percentage. So I think the kids have done some of the things we've asked them to do to become better players, but you know, that summer's difficult because it's all on them. You know, in basketball, that last week before finals, you're done with them and you don't see them again until August in terms of skill development. You see them for summer school, but you can't work with them, and they're on their own to get better as players.
Instead of turning Devin into a back to the basket power player, it seems like you're trying, could be wrong, you want to mix,
Both.
seems
I
like
think
you're
he
trying
has to be
play
both. You know, it's funny, and when I first got the job and I started working with Devin, you naturally start under the basket, and you start working with him with skills and moves, and he's really wasn't that comfortable down there. He wasn't, even though he's a big 6'8", 245-pound guy, he didn't feel comfortable like Jure did. Jure was more comfortable with his back to the basket than facing. Then as soon as you put Devin out to the free throw line and start shooting some shots, he showed some comfort. He felt good. Now, you know, what you want is the balance. In a guy like Devin, you want the balance, and I think you're going to have to get it. And so we've really done a little bit of both in terms of his workouts have been pretty close to 50-50 of perimeter and post. And, you know, he's never going to be one that's just exclusively either or. Milt probably obviously a little more perimeter than post, but we're trying to get him to be a little more post in his game as well. And so hopefully if they can both play in and out, then our offense can be better because we can move around all over the court. That'll help us.
Anything else, guys? All right.